one of the richest volcanogenic massive sulfides in the world discovered in the last 10 years. The value proposition that I see in Salazar Resources is that we've already found something and it's marching up that value curve as it goes towards production. The value is much closer to $1 than it is to 20 cents. And that is the kind of return that you want to be looking at as an investor.
Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. First of all, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like it, give us a thumbs up and do leave your comments below. It just helps us understand what questions you'd like us to ask, what you're thinking about that company, and generally improve the product for you. If you haven't already done so, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, for more videos like this, click the notification bell. We spoke earlier today to Merlin Marr-Johnson, who's the Executive Vice President of Salazar Resources. They're an Ecuadorian explorer looking at gold, copper in the region. They have got quite an interesting business model, which we've done some analysis on to try and help us understand how we analyze junior explorers in South America, of which there are many. So we've used them as a bit of a guinea pig. You can get that report at crux-club.com. Merlin Marr-Johnson talks us through their business plan, what they've achieved to date, how they are funding it, and what they intend to do this year to actually start driving the share price and liquidity problems which they're having. Take a look in the description below. If there's anything that interests you in particular, click on that timestamp and that'll take you to that part of the video. So let's hear what Merlin had to say. Hello Merlin, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad. Locked up at home, as I see you are?
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoying it?
It has its advantages. The children are back at school, so they're all logged on. So if the Wi-Fi goes down, I know that one of them started gaming.
Right. That's a control mechanism. I love it.
Yeah.
Well thought through. I think I may experience the same problem, not to mention various animals running through the house, so bear with me as well. Well, good to speak to you. So we haven't spoken for a few months, and obviously the world's a very, very different place, so I think it's worth catching up, not to mention we've recently done a little bit of analysis. We've used you as a guinea pig, Merlin. We used Salazar as a guinea pig to try and help people understand sort of South American explorer type stories. So it'd be great to sort of catch up with you to be able to sort of see if indeed we're close to being correct. But first of all, let's kick off with a 1 minute overview for people new to this story, and then we'll kind of pick it up from there.
Salazar Resources is an Ecuadorian company listed on the TSX-V. It has made a big discovery of a very rich VMS, and it has farmed out a stake in that, so it's fully carried all the way through to production, but it's kept its exploration roots intact, and it's an exploration company that's well funded, that gets a little bit of income from its joint venture partner, and it aims to make the next big discovery in Ecuador.
Okay, thanks for that. So like I said, yeah, we've done produced a report recently, which is just to kind of help kind of wade our way through the masses of exploration stories out there and trying to find points of differentiation. And I think why we picked on you guys, as it were, is because when we spoke before, there were a couple of things I liked. I liked the newness of Ecuador and the fact that big boys are piling in there because it's a much underexplored country. But the second thing was you had an interesting business model, and if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind going through that with some people. So can you just tell us give us a little bit of background about what you've done, because there's a kind of farming component to it plus this exploration component.
Yes. So some of these companies have a classic project generator model that you find something and you work it up the value curve, and then you farm it out and you have a retained interest and you get some cash from that. Salazar Resources has actually been listed for 13 years. And it set out as kind of as a pure exploration company. It made the one discovery, and it worked it up, got it into indicated resources, got a very advanced stage, and then has done the farm out. So on that farm out, we've got a 25% stake carried all the way through to production, but we also get advanced payments through royalties and management fees, which ticks us over with about $600,000 a year. So we've got income from that asset. We also got some drill rigs which we're using on those joint venture properties, actually 3 projects that we've farmed out, and that provides us with income as well. So as an exploration company with about $1 million of income, we can then fund the early stage value accretive work, which is a lot of the expertise of our Ecuadorian geology, our Ecuadorian exploration team. And it's a very low cost, but high value point. You spend $1 million and you can make a big discovery. So we're actually using the money from the advance payments, management fees, to turn it into the next discovery.
Okay, so let me drill down on that. So who are the farming partners? And if you could, so give us a sense of their capability or ability. I mean, are they desperately scrabbling around looking for money, or are they fully funded to do what they need to do?
Our farming partners are Adventus Mining, and they set up in 2016, maybe 2015, as a special purpose vehicle looking for zinc and copper assets, backed by an A-list of investors and shareholders. So they've got Altius behind them. They've got Wheat and Precious Metals. There's a big group out of Ecuador called the Nobis Group. They've got RCF. It's an extraordinary shareholder list backing Adventus Mining, which is at the moment, kind of Ecuadorian focused. They're not in production yet, but they've got very good access to capital.
Okay.
So they've done very well raising money for the joint venture. And actually, I think a key point for Salazar is that because we've managed our treasury very well, and because we've done the farm out, we haven't had to issue equity. So we're kind of a dilution protected vehicle. We haven't actually issued equity since 2014.
Yeah, no, I noted that, and we'll come on to that in a bit. But what exactly have they bought into? Why did they pick your asset above, others which may have been available to them given the capital that they've got?
Well, I think one of the key reasons is that El Domo, which is the name of the deposit within the bigger Curipamba project. This is in central Ecuador, just south of Quito. It was a discovery made by Salazar, and it's one of the richest volcanogenic massive sulfides in the world discovered in the last 10 years. A really good analog is the De Grussa deposit in Australia, which Sandfire Resources have. Now, when they made that discovery, their share price went from 7 cents to $7. And they're now mining that company. And they've taken about $2 billion of revenue out of that asset. Their market cap, even with the 50% drop they've had in the last couple of months, is still around $500 million US. And these assets can be the cornerstones for really big companies.
But why do you say that? I got to interrupt you there. Why are you making that comparable? Where they are and where you are is miles apart. So in what way is it comparable?
Their maiden discovery was 7 million tons at 4.6% copper and 1.8 grams gold. It then grew into 14 million tons, and it's around 5% copper with about 2 grams gold. On a recovered value basis, their ore is worth about, today, $280 a ton. Our asset is 11 million tons, and it's running about 5% copper equivalent. In our ore value, it's about $260 per ton. We've got copper, gold, zinc, lead, and silver in ours. They've just got copper and gold, but the value per ton is roughly similar. Our sizes are roughly similar. There's nothing like it. I mean, the average grade of copper mines in the world today is around 0.5%. Our copper equivalent grade is 5%. That's an order of magnitude. That's 10 times higher grade than anything else. The economics on that deposit are stunning. And as a company, Salazar Resources, with a market cap of $15 million today, is fully carried on 25% of that. We don't have to issue a single share to get it into production. We don't have to invest a single cent. We're fully carried to production.
Which is fantastic. The fully carried, I was actually going to get onto it. You've answered my question. You've stolen my thunder, Merlin. So you're fully carried and they're paying you money, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You said they haven't started, well, where are they at the moment and when do things get moving? When can you, as Salazar, expect to start seeing some value accretion for your share of this?
Okay, Salazar Resources, because it's been an Ecuadorian company, it's run by Fredy Salazar. I'm the only gringo in the team. They're all based in Quito. They haven't done over the 10 years that they've been listed. Remember, it's been a downturn in the resources sector for most of that time. They haven't been pounding the streets telling the world what a great asset they have. So it's a slightly forgotten, slightly overlooked asset. Our liquidity is poor, but equally our value doesn't really reflect what we've got in the portfolio. The project is at a PEA stage. Well, we did a PEA about a year ago. We've gone through metallurgy. We're going to complete the feasibility study in 2022 and late 21, and aim for production in 2024. That's when the Ecuadorian government is expecting us to be in production. Adventus is in a real hurry to get in production. They want it to happen. So production, they're probably aiming for late 23, but 2024 is a more realistic timetable. I think the key thing about, you asked about when are we going to start accreting value, is when is value really being recognized? I think once we've got a mining permit and a feasibility study, then people will sit up and realize, well, hang on, this is a DeGrussa, this is a Sandfire Resources lookalike. This shouldn't be worth, the NPV on the PEA was $300 million. And our 25% of that is whatever you want to call it, $70 million or $75 million worth.
Okay. And
versus our market cap today of 15.
Exactly, which is, what was it, point 2?
0.2 of NAV, yeah.
Which is, it seems ludicrous in a way.
It's ludicrous just on the value of El Domo, but actually, El Domo is the value case for the company. It de-risks your investment. But what you would want to get invested in Salazar Resources for is the fact that we are Ecuadorian and that we're explorers and we're going to find the next deposit.
We'll come on to it.
Exciting.
We will come on to it, but I think you're being valued at the moment on that 25% free carry on El Domo. Okay, so I just want to dig down a little bit deeper on that one. So these guys are fully funded. Delivery 2024 into production 2024. They're not fully funded. We're fully funded. They have to keep issuing equity, but they've got very supportive shareholders. Sorry, bad phrase from me. They have got the ability to. I was referring to their shareholder base and the expectation that they could carry on funding themselves without coming against difficulties in the marketplace. Which is so. Thanks for clarifying that. But I want to talk about where value creates for them, because if they're PEA stage, its NPV is nearly 300. Once they get into PFS, feasibility study, and a DFS, one would expect that to continue to gain in value, typical Lassonde curve type structure, right? And for you too, you would hope to see that. But at the moment, if I'm looking at your share price, it's fairly static, it's fairly flat, non-dilutive for many, many years, which is fantastic. And from what you're saying, the money that you're bringing in should allow you to do quite a bit. Now's probably the time to talk about some of the things that you are going to do to try and drive some kind of value which people recognize and hopefully reflected in your share price, which is the exploration assets that you've got and that you're working on. Can you give people a quick rundown of I think you've got 3 at the moment, but one which you're focusing on in particular?
Yeah, smaller companies typically really only get the value when there are kind of good catalysts, as you say. And the best catalyst is mineralized drill core and when the market can see that you're on a growth story. So discovery and drill out. That's the most exciting, and that's when you get a rocket-fueled share price, and that's tremendous. Now, we've got, in Salazar Resources, we've got 3 kind of main exploration licenses that are 100% owned by us. We've got one in the north, which is a copper porphyry. It's a porphyry system, but actually it's gold-rich. And that's kind of a gold target with copper associated with it. And that's right up next to the Sol Gold, Urimagua, kind of the big deposits up in the north. Right down in the south, we've got another VMS target, and that's just over the border from some fantastic VMSs in Peru. And our assets in Ecuador. And then we've got another copper gold asset in south central Ecuador next to the Lumina Gold Cangrejos deposit.
Can you just quickly explain for people what VMS is? Because some geologists love it. I like those types of deposits, but not everyone understands what the potential there is. So maybe if you just give us a quick overview.
Okay, a VMS is a volcanogenic massive sulfide, and they form at the on the sea floor when the ocean floor is spreading and you get hot vents coming up carrying minerals. They hit the seawater, they cool down, and they deposit, and you get circulating hot water and lots of fluid flow, and these things occur in little pods along the structure on the base of the ocean floor. So where you get the quasi rift or the faulting system, you can get lots of these pods. Typically, they are very high in value, and they're normally quite small. So you get clusters of them. They're typically 2 to 3 to 5 million tons, and in every cluster you get a bigger one, and it's 10 million tons or 20 million tons or 30 million tons. Rio Tinto down in on the Iberian Pyrite Belt, they're called, down in southern Spain. That's where all there's a whole series of these VMSs. Rio Tinto got started on one. Agnico Eagle, Kid Creek, that's a VMS. Lundin Metals up in Sweden, they got going on a VMS. You know, they can be company makers. And the reason why they are so attractive is because they are high grade and relatively compact. And so they're absolutely ideal for starter companies to get going. Sandfire in Australia, the DeGrussa deposit, they don't require a huge amount of infrastructure. They're a small, compact, high grade deposit that really helps you get started as a mining company. And that's why they're liked.
Okay, so got to deal with this. So El Domo took a while to kind of work up and get into that kind of farming position. The potential here is to kind of replicate that model, keep replicating that model. You know, find assets, work it up to a point. You bring someone in who's got cash to be able to develop it and get some free carry on it. Nice model, lovely model, but yeah, it takes time, and there's no real blue sky for you in terms of the upside potential. You're kind of almost restricted by whatever deal you can construct. So can you just help me understand what you're going to do with the money that you have? I get that it's non-dilutive, which is great for shareholders. Does cause problems with liquidity, I think, in the way that you've got things set up. But we'll discuss that in a sec. What do you do with your $3.5 million between now and the end of next year with exploration? And how do you work out which one to focus on and which ones to potentially farm out?
Okay, well, just on the farm out question, the landscape in Ecuador has changed enormously. So because they've reformed their mining code and because they really need their mining industry to develop, it actually is they prioritized it as a strategic industry. The oil price collapse has meant that they weren't getting paid from the oil industry anyway, and now they're getting even less. So they're really pushing the mining industry. And the world has woken up to that fact, and so it's a very competitive landscape in Ecuador, and we are being called up the whole time with people wanting to do farm-in deals to get access to our expertise and our land positions. So the ability to do a farm out is completely different now to what it was 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago.
What do you mean by that?
That there are people willing to do farm-in deals now, whereas they weren't 2 years ago or 5 years ago.
But not in the sense that the type of deals that you do, they haven't changed. It's just that the number of people inquiring has increased. That's what you mean?
The terms of the deals are better, and also they're willing to come in and pay for much earlier stage assets. So the farm-in deal that we did on El Domo Curipamba was on a well-defined resource. We'd been drilling it for 7 years at that stage, or 6 years. It was indicated and inferred resources about to go into PEA stage. And we did a value accretive farm out deal at that stage, but we've now got people looking to do farm-ins at a very early stage on our exploration portfolio, which are essentially grassroots in the sense that we've got drill targets, but we haven't drilled them yet. Now, as I said, exploration companies really get the rocket under their share price when they have a growth story that they can follow on a 100% basis. And we will keep our best asset, or what we think is our best asset, for ourselves so that we can drill it and report those results.
Which asset of your three is that?
Oh, there's a slight discrepancy within the team, which is our best asset. And so we've got to do a little bit of work first to work out which is our best asset. Fredy Salazar, great geologist, the CEO of the company, he really likes Rumiñahui up in the north. He's said he's got there's 1 hectare area where he's, in all the outcrops he's seen, he says it's about an average of 2 grams gold with 0.2% copper. He said this is a really big and rich gold target. He's seen the alteration up at Cascabel, a Sol Gold asset, and he's seen the alteration and the veining in our area, and he says he prefers ours, and he wants to drill that as a priority, and we will be drilling that later this year.
Okay.
So that's got all the potential to be the company number one. The one I'm quite keen on is the one down in the south, Macará. It's the VMS target. It's got a lovely gold cap. The beauty about those gold barite caps is that it's often oxide gold, so it's free milling, very low cost operating. When I was down I was at a conference, one of the old timers who'd been working in Peru came up and he looked at our licenses and he said, "Wow, I like those." He said, "That gold cap," he said, "I reckon you've got 500,000 ounces at 3 grams a ton, maybe 3.5 grams a ton there." And I was like, "Well, okay, that's a nice compliment." And he says, "You've got all the indications of the VMS body underneath as well. I can't tell whether you're on the edge or on the top of it, but you need to do gravity. You need to do a gravity survey." And it's the classic thing for VMS deposits. You have to do, or you don't have to, but the best way to find these things is to do gravity surveys. So that means that Macará is running actually behind Rumiñahui. So the one up in the north, we can go straight in and drill. While we're drilling that, we can do the gravity survey and then come back and drill Macará.
Okay.
And with those, we can afford to do both of those. And at that point, farm out the one that we want to take on.
Okay, so that process will, between now and the end of this year? Or will it take a bit longer? By the end of this year, you'll make a decision.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The field teams are at the moment kind of getting ready to go back into Rumiñahui. Fredy is on the phone all the time with the landowners. He owns some of the land at Rumiñahui. One of the reasons he's so keen to get in there is that when he first went there 25 years ago, there were these massive blocks, 10-meter blocks of boulders, rocks, which have obviously not traveled very far. And he assayed them, and they were running 20 grams gold and 2% copper.
Right. Which would get everyone's notice. Yeah.
So,
sure.
He really likes Rumiñahui. He thinks it's got real potential. But getting the field crews back in, as I said, mining is a strategic sector for Ecuador. We are being pushed to get back into the field. Obviously, with COVID concerns, we've got to do it in a very safe manner and not introduce, isolation, dealing with the communities, working that all out. But we're still looking at a plan to get into the field, wrap up the final drill pads, get the water permits for drilling, and aim to be drilling kind of September, October this year.
Okay, so you make an interesting point there in that Ecuador is a sort of relatively new virgin territory in many ways, although I do appreciate Fredy's of ex-Newmont and has been working there for 20 years, but in the sense where there hasn't been a lot of money piled in. The government is encouraging and wanting people to start mining for revenue reasons, but there are some groups who are anti-mining in the country who are either looking for you to stop or looking for assurances about the way that mining is carried out. So the government's going through some kind of assessment at the moment. I mean, what can you tell us about where that is and what it may involve?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Ecuador is an amazing country, and the mining industry has really struggled to get going there. And it's for a whole host of reasons. Some of it is political. It's historically very socialist government, which has been kind of anti-mining. It's had a very pro-environment and tourism and ecological bent to the politics. the local communities, the indigenous communities, are anti-mining. They're pro-tourism. It's been tough going, and in the past they have put on windfall taxes and all kinds of things to almost inhibit mining. The great turnaround, should we say, came around in about 2010, when the socialist government realized they couldn't afford their welfare programs, they couldn't afford their investment into social infrastructure, education, you name it. And looking around at what sector could provide the funding for those, the societal, the country level investment that was required, the only thing that could work was mining. Oil was ex-growth, and they'd done these very bad loans to the Chinese, oil for cash. Agriculture was ex-growth. It's also a dollar-based economy, so it's quite hard to compete with Peru or Colombia or Bolivia for coffee or cocoa. Tourism was ex-growth. And then the final kind of realization was that actually there is already mining in Ecuador. There's a lot of illegal mining, there's a lot of environmental degradation. And so the choice was between good mining and bad mining. And if you can get good mining, which is well regulated, safe, properly done, and it generates tax dollars and foreign exchange earnings for the country, so much the better. Now that's all the positive. The negative is that you've got a community that doesn't really understand mining, or if it does understand mining, it's bad. It's kind of criminal enterprises, it's environmental degradation. There's a great deal of fear in the local communities about mining. And you've got a couple of very, very vocal anti-mining protesters calling for referendum and referenda the whole time. So it's one step forward, half a step back.
But you guys, I read something that was quite interesting. I mean, I like football. I think a lot of people like football. Most of South America likes football. But you guys, I think Fredy has started an initiative which seems to be growing. Personally, I'm not quite sure whether you're going to be a mining company or a football company team, because you've created this kind of, I've forgotten the name. What's miners in Spanish?
Los Mineros.
Los Mineros, there you go. The Los Mineros program, which is about building out these local, football teams who, play in leagues and so forth. I guess that's not just for the love of football, but to help spread and educate the right way to go about mining and why it is a positive or could be a force for good. Can you tell us a little bit about that program? Because I've only seen bits and pieces, but it seems quite impressive.
Sure. I mean, Fredy's Ecuadorian. He's from the communities. The El Domo project was discovered by one of our best geologists who lives in the town nearby. We're not a foreign company coming in to kind of plunder the riches of the empire. It's a very Ecuadorian company with a focus on developing the community and working for the benefit of all Ecuador. And Fredy has got a real knack for knowing what is going to work in which area. In some places it's a cattle project, in other places it's a coffee project. And around El Domo, he felt that there were two things that would work really well. One was a dance school with local cultures, and the other was this football team. And the football team, he sets up these little community academies. So both for male and female, boys and girls. They come through, and there's training, there's football, and he's funded also the state football team in Bolivar State, which didn't really have a football team. He's called it Los Mineros, and all the little community football teams in the areas where we're working can feed players through to the kind of the central academy. Okay. And we're putting some money into that central academy, and it's going really well through the through the leagues, through the divisions. Yeah. And what we're speaking to some other mining companies. We hope that they'll take us up on it, but we're looking to offer them our template so they can set up their own little football academies in the regions where they're working, and that can all feed through to the mining football team, which of course helps a country realize that actually, here we go, the miners are a real deal as a kind of a cultural force for good.
No, I thought it was a very interesting way to do, because normally you read, it's the same old thing, we've built a school, it was great, built a school, but then walked away. We built a well and then we walked away. But there's a real kind of legacy component to that. I really liked it. I thought it was a very attractive way of doing it and enabling the mining community, because you're opening it up to other mining companies in the region, in the country, to be able to tell and sell the same story.
There's one quite cool thing, is that Ecuador played England in a World Cup match in the 90s.
I remember, yeah.
And the goalkeeper,
yeah,
the Ecuadorian goalkeeper from that game is actually from a town near us. He's not one who got shot. I think that was a Venezuelan, wasn't it, or Colombian?
The Scorpion. The guy who did the
Scorpion King. No, that's a Colombian.
Yeah.
Dreadlocks.
No, I think he died, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
But the Ecuadorian goalkeeper who played against England lives in the town local to us, and actually a couple of communities away, which has traditionally been a very anti-mining town. He's joined Los Mineros as our coach and also as our goalkeeper, and he's really interested in mining. So it's a nice kind of full circle thing. He's an ex-national player playing for Los Mineros. I think he's in his 40s now, but he's kind of coaching. So old.
Right, well, we better get back to how you're going to make money for shareholders, because one of the things I talked about earlier was this liquidity issue, which I think is problematic for small companies where there's lots of shares are held by management or insiders, or even large institutions in some cases, and they're not fully traded. What are you going to do about that?
Well, what can you do? All you can do is tell the story, get out there and deliver results. There's the only two things you can do. You can communicate what you're doing and the value proposition, and you can get out there and return results. So that's what we've got to do. And we'll be drilling at Rumiñahui later this year. We'll be pulling samples and maps and targets out of Macará, the VMS project in the south. We're applying for new licenses. We've got our eyes on, because we're Ecuadorian, we've got our eyes on some of the best ground in Ecuador, and ongoing projects, ongoing work with our joint venture things. What I haven't said is that El Domo is the one that's going to feasibility. That's the VMS, but Adventus are also drilling a couple of big porphyry targets, and we'll be drilling those this year. So we've got that's funded drilling that would also generate value and results for us later this year. So we've got 5 or 6 projects which we'll be drilling this year or advancing this year, plus the main one which is going through to feasibility.
Okay, Merlin. Well, I think we'll leave it there, because I mean, like I said, we've done this analysis or appraisal of your company. It was really just a case of helping us kind of wade our way through the many South American junior explorer stories which we get on our desk every day, and this did stand out for all the right reasons. I think, like I said, I do think my concern is, like, if people are interested in you, that it's going to be difficult to get hold of shares because there's not that selling going on. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these results and if they're going to make a difference in the market in terms of these catalyst events. I'm looking at your face. Do you think they will?
Well, can I just chip in with a couple of extra comments? One is that the risk-reward profile of exploration companies is always quite scary. You hope that they're going to find something, but you're never sure that they are going to. Now, the kind of the value proposition that I see in Salazar Resources is that we've already found something, and it's not in the price, and it's marching up that value curve as it goes towards production. So we know that the share price for Salazar is going to gradually reflect that stake in El Domo. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, but the value is much closer to $1 than it is to 20 cents. And that is the kind of return that you want to be looking at as an investor over a year or two. And then we've got the kind of the spice or the excitement of this great exploration portfolio with a team of proven geologists who know how to operate in Ecuador in one of the most fertile geological districts in the world. That gives you the real excitement on this exploration story. Now, when it comes to liquidity and can you buy the shares? The company has been listed for 13 years. It's got 50% of the shareholder register, which is very tightly held, but the other 50% has been relatively, perhaps relatively tired, having held it on for a number of years. Liquidity will come. Get out there in the market, bid for $100,000 worth of stock, and you'll see that the liquidity will come. It might not be at 17 cents, but it might be at 25 cents. The key thing is that I'm pretty sure that liquidity will be there, and as you approach the right valuation point, that liquidity will come back.
We'll leave it there.
Thanks.
So, we should stay in touch, please, because I think you've got a lot of things which are important that are coming up once we get through this kind of COVID-19, lockdown that we're in. Like I say, pick up the phone, let us know what's going on, because it's one of our favorite South American junior exploration stories now. Now, we spent a lot of time on it, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Great. Thank you very much.